I am sleeping on.
Good afternoon, everyone. I call to order this meeting of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. The purpose of this meeting is to accept public comment on the President's recommended fiscal year 2024 annual operating budget. Before we start, I will outline the procedures we will follow today. Today's public forum is an opportunity for the university community and members of the public to voice their comments on the proposed fiscal year 2024 operating budget. We welcome and look forward to these comments, but it will not be a dialogue. If you pose specific questions, please do not expect answers or a response. The board will consider your concerns and your suggestions before we meet to act on the budget at a special meeting on June 26, 2023. We have 10 speakers, and they will be called on in the order in which they signed up. Mr. Steves will call on each speaker. When it is your turn, please come to the presenter's table and state your full name for the record. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Steves will keep time and will alert speakers when they have 1 minute remaining and when their time has expired. Finally, I'd like to remind everyone that the board is also accepting written comments on the budget via our website. Please visit regents.umn.edu to submit your comments. With that, Mr. Steves, will you please call the first speaker?
Robert McMaster.
Hello, my name is Robert McMaster. I'm currently the Vice Provost and Dean of Undergraduate Education on the Twin Cities campus. I'd like to thank the Board of Regents for giving me this opportunity to comment on the U of M proposed budget, where I'd like to focus my remarks on the UMTC tuition increase. I fully support this increase for 5 major reasons. First, the UMTC tuition increase over the past decade under the watch of Presidents Kaler and Gabel have been extremely low. The average annual change over the past 10 years has been 1.6%, significantly under the inflation rate, and in 3 of those 10 years, the tuition increase was 0. Second, the increase in financial aid support is as important as changes in tuition. Over the past 10 years, the total gift aid for undergraduates has increased by over $70 million. As a result of this increase, the net price, which is the total cost of attendance minus the total gift aid, is currently under $10,000 for families making less than $75,000 a year, at the very low end of all Minnesota institutions. In terms of enhanced financial support, the newly established North Star Scholarship created by the legislature will provide for families making under $80,000 free tuition and fees for Minnesota residents enrolling in any public university. This starts in fall 2024. Third, we watch student debt very carefully. Since 2011, the average student loan debt on the Twin Cities campus has decreased, dropping by over $1,000 to around $27,000. This places the Twin Cities campus with the 5th lowest debt in the Big Ten. The percent who do not borrow at all has increased from 39 to 49%. The average student loan debt at graduation remains well below the Minnesota average. Fourth, when recruiting students to the university, we describe ourselves as a world-class institution. Thus, students arrive at the U of M and have expectations for the very best instruction, learning environments, and facilities. In order to support this level of excellence, we need to cover cost increases in many areas, including modern labs, employee salaries, and student support. Fifth, at the same time that we have significantly increased the size of our freshman class from 5,600 to 6,800, we have also increased and enhanced our student services. We've enhanced our advising, career counseling, mental health services, increased our tutoring capacity, hired low-income coaches, and continued to invest in cutting-edge classrooms. These investments in student services have paid off very well and will continue to do so. They have generated record high retention and graduation rates, which have saved our students nearly $35 million in reduced student debt. For these reasons, I support the tuition increase that is proposed for UMTC students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McMaster. Mr. Steves, if you would call the next speaker.
Shireen Horazuk.
Good afternoon. I'm Shireen Horzuk, a 19-year employee at the Humphrey School and the president of AFSCME 3800, our clerical union here at the U. AFSCME has been tracking salary and staffing data since 2009. In 2012, we raised the alarm about the growth in high-paid administrators while frontline workers lived in poverty. Following a scathing article regarding skyrocketing administrative salaries in the midst of skyrocketing tuition, the legislature demanded that the U cut administrative bloat. The U hired Huron Consulting Group, the same firm responsible for Peak. Huron said, "It's a problem of incorrect classifications." So the U tweaked job codes and voila, there were fewer high-paid administrators. But you could also cut frontline clerical positions to reduce costs. Overpaid administrators must have loved this advice. Change some titles, keep your own big salaries, and significantly reduce the number of people who are criticizing you, the unionized clerical workforce. In the 10 years the university has been paying Huron, we've lost 871 AFSCME positions. Since 2018 alone, there are 505 fewer AFSCME jobs and 164 fewer Teamsters jobs. But there are 146 more academic administrators. In 2012, 17 academic administrators made $300,000 or more a year. In 2023, that number is 48. 612 administrators at this public institution make more than the governor. 20 make more than the President of the United States. Huron's latest recommendation is Peak, which we have been told is not aimed at a reduction in staff. But will we just see more of what's happened since 2012? Higher level jobs remain while frontline unionized positions are eliminated. Peak Phase 1 is happening right now, and it's an attack not only on frontline unionized jobs, but an attack on job security on our coordinate campuses. Half of the 81 Phase 1 employees are in Duluth. Half of those are AFSCME members. What happens if a coordinate campus worker takes a Peak job, then quits, retires, or otherwise leaves at some point? Will the job continue to be based in Duluth or Crookston or Morris, or will it be a job in the Twin Cities? The only people who seem to like Peak are high-paid senior administrators and Huron consultants. After all, as long as they keep proposing restructuring schemes, they continue to get paid. How much money has the U given to Huron Consulting since 2012? How much are they getting paid for the mess that is Peak? Put this money to better use by ensuring livable wage jobs for the people who do the day-to-day work that makes this university actually run. Or to restore new employee orientation. Did you know that there is no centralized orientation for new employees? OHR axed it in order to save on administrative costs. I want to submit for the record a petition calling to pause Peak with over 600 signatures. We demand that the Board of Regents analyze the contracts and payments to Huron Consulting. We further demand that not one frontline job be lost and not one job be lost on our coordinate campuses. Who's making money off of this scheme and who will pay the price? Last month, during the interim president hiring process, you repeatedly stated the need to rebuild trust with the university community and legislature. Bloated exec salaries and corporate restructuring is not the path to rebuilding trust. Pause on Peak and chop from the top.
Woo! I'm not sure who to give the petitions to, so I'm going to just leave them here for now. Thank you very much. Mr. Steves, would you call our next speaker?
Patrick McCormick.
Gable, it's nice to see you. Surprised to see you here. I know you were unable to attend the COGS meeting last month. My name is Patrick McCormick. I'm a third year, finishing up my third year as a graduate student in political science. I'm also a member of the EC for the Council of Graduate Students. At a time of budget cuts to CLA, the rise of contingent and adjunct faculty use that makes the university a source of precariousness, I am deeply concerned with the way this Board of Regents chooses to spend money. $166,000 on a failed search for a chancellor in Duluth, allowing a lame duck president to hold on to an additional $160,000 retirement contribution that, via the contract that she signed, she should not receive unless she stays in this position until the 30th of this month. I don't understand how we're to trust you if contracts cannot be enforced on those that sign them. You've left years before your commitment was to be up, President Gable. $400,000 on an interim president with no experience running a university. And I understand it that only one member of this board was even willing to consider making the offer of a $500,000 salary for this position that every other member rejected, suggesting it would cut candidates. Instead, we were fortunate enough to have the candidate themselves suggest that they only be compensated at $400,000. Yet the candidate has no experience in this job, has no background in higher academic sort of management, and will be carrying out a plan that they have no creative control in and no input on. I'm sure that they could eventually learn to do a good job, but for a position that they will hold, and not, as you've said, on a permanent basis, they will be in training the entire time, yet you have said to compensate them at almost $500,000. At the same time, as the last speaker pointed out, many people are living in a state of precariousness here at the university, including graduate students who you have time and time again failed to keep up with the rate of inflation for their pay, and many of whom in the summer are without any form of compensation. With a salary of $19,000 to go without pay for 3 months is an impossibility in the Twin Cities. Yet, that same time, they're expected to keep up their academic performance. And recently, in my own department, the inability for you guys to spend on people who carry out the core mission of universities, education and scholarship, has resulted in a wonderful faculty member leaving because they cannot find a spousal hire here at the university. Someone who's been here over a decade, loved by students, undergraduates and graduates alike, does incredible research, will be leaving. But we've found time for golden parachutes and hiring people who have no academic experience, something you yourselves identified as an important aspect of what the interim hire would be. Going forward, I hope you will engage the important stakeholders who do the actual core functions of universities: education, research, mentorship for students, and take into account stakeholders like the ones speaking to you today. And COGS looks forward to sitting with you when you make the search for the next permanent president. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Mr. Steves, if you would call the next speaker.
Ruth Shaw.
I'm Ruth Shaw. I've been a professor in the Department of Ecology, Evolution, and Behavior for 30 years. And in conjunction with that role, I've been a member of the graduate faculty of the University of Minnesota Graduate Program in Ecology, Evolution, and Behavior. And I currently serve as its Director of Graduate Studies. I'm here to inform the board that this world-renowned graduate program is in dire straits. Budget uncertainties and severe limitations have prevented our graduate program from admitting sufficient numbers of students for several years running. This past year, our incoming cohort numbered 5 students, far from adequate for a program of 60 graduate faculty that has averaged, ever since I've been here, 60 graduate students at all stages of their studies. Austerity budgets directly harm the vitality of all scholarly efforts at the University of Minnesota. As graduate programs shrivel because administration does not invest in them to adequately support the graduate students who do such meaningful research and attentively teach our undergraduates, the world-class status, a phrase I heard in the first speaker's comments, the world-class status of the whole institution wanes. In addition, the university's budget model, rather than fostering the inherent inclination toward cooperation in scholarly work, pits colleges against one another for funding allocations. This results in severe under-resourcing of intercollegiate graduate programs like ours, and also the Conservation Sciences graduate program, of which I'm also a member. I'm also here because I value the core ideal of a university, scholarly work, that is education, research, and outreach on a wide panoply of subjects that have no barriers between them. Specifically, I'll note that I cherish the liberal arts and my colleagues, faculty and students at all levels, advancing understanding in them. I was and remain shocked at the announced cuts to instructional budgets in the College of Liberal Arts, the academic home of by far the most undergraduates at this university, and also of outstanding graduate programs. To the extent that these cuts are left in place, they will do immense harm to students striving to complete degrees because of cancellation of about 200 courses for which students have already registered. The cuts also deeply harm the faculty and graduate students committed to teaching them. I especially note that these cuts would devastate our faculty who don't hold tenure-track positions and are already dismally compensated, often at about $6,000 per course, for their work as instructors delivering the lion's share of undergraduate instruction.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. As if you would call the next speaker.
John Schwetman.
All right, John Schwetman. Thank you, Chair Mayeron and Regents, for this opportunity to address you with respect to the President's proposed budget for 2024. My name is John Schwetman. I'm the President of the University Education Association, Duluth, the union of faculty up at our campus up north. Upon reviewing the budget, the University Education Association Duluth has noticed and appreciated an increase in funding for the Duluth campus for 2024. And we noted three big positive developments within this increase. We noticed, for example, that a tuition increase will be much lower for greater Minnesota campuses than for the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and this will help us recruit and retain students who may be evaluating options within the University of Minnesota system. We noticed the bridge funding for 2024 will indeed give us some space to work on our UMD-specific initiatives. We appreciate that, and we also appreciate tuition reductions for former MSEP students, which will support our Chancellor McMillan's vision for UMD. In general, we really appreciate this opportunity for our campus to develop its own policies in consultation with Duluth faculty. And we like campus-specific approaches. As you may know, the UE bargaining team is currently in negotiations with you via your administrative bargaining team, and we trust that this administrative team is keeping you informed of the status of negotiations and how they're representing you in this capacity, particularly with attention to the importance of attracting and retaining talented faculty and staff necessary to achieve the goals of the strategic plan, as noted on page 39 of the budget proposal. And we trust that they will negotiate with us accordingly. We hope, too, that the result of these negotiations will, like this proposed budget, help our members make up for lost ground during the past several years of fiscal austerity for the Duluth campus. We're eager to work with our UMD-level leadership to enable our campus to contribute positively to the mission of the University of Minnesota system. And I want to let you know, Regents, that I'm always available to provide you with UMD faculty perspectives. Thank you for all of your work for the University of Minnesota system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schwetman. Our next speaker, please.
Abram Neusser.
Hello, my name is Abram Neusser, and I'm an AFSCME clerical employee, a graduate of the University of Minnesota, and a current graduate student at the Humphrey School as well. I'm standing here today, or rather sitting, because given all of my connections to the university, I'm concerned about the blatant and wholehearted corporate direction the university is headed. I find it particularly disappointing to receive emails asking that I advocate for additional funding for the University of Minnesota, only for the University of Minnesota to turn around and consistently claim that funding is unavailable for staff to be compensated fairly and adequately. I find it disappointing to get requests to help the administration come up with strategies to stop high levels of staff turnover and then be greeted with plans that would potentially cut a number of clerical jobs and turn many others into glorified call centers through this absurdly murky and undemocratic peak initiative. I'm disappointed to get countless emails and messages about DEIJ initiatives and activities being carried out across the university system, many of which are done with staff, students, and faculty without any support, financial or otherwise, of the university, and then get news of significant cuts to the very departments that help us learn about these things and guide us in our practice of anti-racism and anti-oppression. I'm disappointed to learn that in the face of a series of critical failures in leadership, that the university will put its faith in the hands of a multimillionaire CEO with absolutely no experience in steering an organization dedicated to the public good through accessible education. I want to see the UMN budget be reflective of the equity that it so often espouses. I want to see a budget that ensures every single employee, graduate student, research assistant, staff member, and student worker is getting a living wage. I want to see an end to the distribution crisis, where a small number of people at the university make immense amounts of money while others struggle to even pay rent or receive adequate medical care. I think you all know that UMN students deserve better. UMN staff deserve better. UMN faculty deserve better. And if you don't, we'll be here consistently to remind you of that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Newsom. Speaker, please.
Skylar Dorr.
Hello, Board of Regents. My name is Skylar Dorr, and I'm a clerical worker at the Institute for Advanced Study and a proud member of AFSCME 3800. The last time I gave a public comment at a Board of Regents meeting, everyone started with "thank you for allowing me to speak," and I said, "thank you for allowing me to be ignored today." Today, with new regents on the board, I'm finally confident that you're going to listen and you're going to take the concerns of clerical workers seriously. I have confidence that you're going to find the increased corporatization efforts at a public university whose stated goal is a commitment to academic excellence, not greed, to be a danger to this campus. As the PEAK initiative goes into effect and threatens the livelihoods of so many clerical workers unsure of what their job is going to be, where they'll be working, or if they'll even have a job anymore after they are told to accept a centralized position despite their current job code not being an option, I have confidence that you're going to recognize that PEAK needs to be paused. I've been with this university for 5 years, not counting my time as an undergrad, and I've seen firsthand through the pandemic just how out of touch the university's administration can be. This latest push for PEAK is an absolute egregious example of how the administration cooks up plans with no thought to the lives it will impact and the mess it'll create for those of us on the ground working to keep this university running. Even as the initiative is started, there are so many unanswered questions. What does PEAK mean for seniority? How many people will be forced to take demotions and pay? How many clerical workers will even stay at the U after they get their centralized job or leave for elsewhere? When the university has already been hampered by understaffing in most of its departments, how is centralizing for the sake of centralizing going to solve the functioning of this institution when it only makes things worse? I have confidence that you're going to consider how PEAK serves the university's stated goals beyond lining Huron Consulting's pockets. I have confidence that you're going to take these concerns seriously, and you will put a pause on this disastrous initiative that serves only to further corporatizing a public university and incentivizing its employees to leave en masse. Pause on PEAK. No, not one job lost.
Speaker, please.
Sorka Lona.
Hello, Regents. I'm sure some of you will recognize me. My name is Sorka Lona. I am here today speaking against proposed cuts to ethnic and gender studies in the College of Liberal Arts. I'm speaking as a member of Students for a Democratic Society, as well as a returning student. Whether or not I choose to return this fall is inextricably linked to the decisions made by the body sitting right in front of me. Regents, as you fast-track budget decisions that work in your own interests and the interests of your corporate associates, you clearly need to be reminded that your decisions affect people. They affect people materially, whether your employees are able to pay rent, whether students are able to pay tuition without being strapped with crippling student loans, or study crucially important topics that are being attacked around the country, both by legislation and by massive budget cuts, including at this university. Ethnic and gender studies are being attacked to the extent that my friends in Florida, fellow members of SDS, are facing 5 to 10 years in prison for defending these programs at their school. And you all, the Board of Regents, have the gall to cut these already underfunded programs in a state where they aren't illegal. Your decisions have consequences. You can either choose to normalize attacks on these programs, attacks that are threatening to unjustly put 5 largely queer and trans students in prison for up to a decade, or you can choose to put a relatively meager amount of money into these programs and continue to be a legitimate public institution. I do not want to attend a university that is perpetually increasing tuition, attacking its labor-represented workers, increasing administrator salaries, and disgustingly cutting ethnic and gender studies. Your priority as leaders at this public institution should be economically and materially benefiting the students, staff, and faculty that actually run this university every day. And your track record has shown that you are a clear failure, beholden to your own pathetic greed. If you want to actually meet your own goals of addressing DEI programs, or addressing DEI in general, being in good standing with the diverse communities in the state of Minnesota, and achieving academic excellence, you must fully fund ethnic studies and meet the demands of the American Indian Studies faculty, as well as the Truth Project, and fully fund gender and gender queer studies. Pause on peak and justice for the Tampa Five. Thank you.
Mr. Lona. Next speaker, please.
Fa'aumu Kaimana.
My name is Fa'aumu Kaimana. And I am a member of Students for a Democratic Society and a third-year graduate student in the anthropology program. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to testify in regards to the fiscal year 2024 budget. As a student in the College of Liberal Arts, I am appalled by what little is being done by administration to address the vulnerabilities of American Indian Studies to budget cuts. American Indian Studies plays an important role in the university by foregrounding Indigenous thought and knowledge within an academy that is otherwise hostile to the interests of Indigenous peoples. While I am relieved that an initially announced cut to American Indian Studies is overstated, there's no telling what the future holds for the department. As American Indian Studies sits in uncertainty, top-level administrators continue to make exorbitant salaries, in many cases making even more than the governor of Minnesota. Even further, University of Minnesota continues to make money off the Permanent University Fund, capital from lands that were stolen off the backs of Dakota and Ojibwe peoples to fund, in perpetuity, the institution's existence. We know how terrible the university is at managing money, as evidenced by COA. Indeed, had students not made a big fuss about the huge budget cuts to the ethnic and gender studies departments, the school would not have found the magic $1 million that have rendered the initial cuts an overstatement. However, the university's mismanagement of funds should not detract from the bigger picture. I'm here to win big for American Indian Studies, ethnic studies, gender studies, and for all students who benefit from these programs, including myself. In particular, I call on the university to honor the demands of the American Indian Studies faculty by fully funding the department and its language programs, using monies raised in perpetuity from the Permanent University Fund and other sources. Stop the cuts, pause on peak. Skoden.
Speaker, please.
Lisa Lewis.
Chair Mayron, members of the Board of Regents, I'm Lisa Lewis, President and CEO of the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. For 119 years, the association has been promoting the welfare of the university. I'm here today to discuss 4 budget-related items based on feedback we hear from alumni. These include university quality, the value of a U of M degree, affordability, safety, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. First, from an alumni perspective, balancing university quality and affordability remains crucial. The university is recognized globally in higher education rankings and also among employers. And we must prioritize maintaining that world-class performance and reputation. There is an immense value in a University of Minnesota degree, and we all want that value to continue to grow. The UMAA applauds budget priorities focused on attracting and retaining talented faculty and staff through competitive compensation. It's the people who drive the university's success. The UMAA is also mindful that the proposed tuition increase will impact future alumni. Student borrowing, which becomes alumni debt, is a concern, especially for our youngest alumni. As they look to build careers, buy homes, or start a family, they want to be financially secure. So together, we need to continue to ensure that our newest alumni have outstanding career options and the full support of the more than 510,000 alumni to back them for the rest of their lives. Alumni are alert to both the real and perceived views of affordability of higher education. We encourage continued support of the university's Promise programs and other programs that have already been mentioned, and further investment in the university by the state legislature. Advocating for the university is core to our mission. We will continue to partner with the university's legislative team to secure needed funding to promote affordability and socioeconomic mobility for all. 2 other issues top of mind for alumni are ensuring campus safety and building a more inclusive community. We're pleased that this budget continues to invest in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and also to increase resources for campus safety through additional safety personnel and infrastructure improvements. The feeling of safety and belonging for all, whether visiting, learning, or working on campus, remains of utmost importance. To close, we recognize that a budget is a statement of an organization's values and requires tough decisions and trade-offs. Ongoing investment in the quality and value of a U of M degree, affordability, safety, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging efforts are keys to the success of both current and future alumni. Thank you for your leadership and service to the University of Minnesota.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. I'd like to thank all of our speakers today and my colleagues for their time and attention. As a reminder to the university community, we are accepting written feedback via our website and will meet on June 26 to act on the fiscal year 2024 annual operating budget. Before we conclude, colleagues, we will take a brief break and then reconvene for the Mission Fulfillment Committee meeting at 2:15 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.